Hello, good evening, and welcome, ladies, gentlemen, and those who identify otherwise. Oliver Anderson, Mr. One of Oliver, and behind the cameras, as always, will be Grandpa Chris Hill, ready to take you through the second round of the 11th season of the SSRI Tuesday Night Championships here on ACC with the GT3 cast. And what a race we had last time. Winning margin just over a second between Jordy Peters and Regan Mitchell. Fun battles all the way up and down the field. Many drivers with big results and big drives. Nicholas Carlson, who will forget that battle he had through the field, especially with Wolf Garcia in the closing stages of that race. But let's see what happens as we go racing here to Suzuka this evening. One of my all-time favorite tracks. Such a beautiful track to drive. Really challenging all throughout. Many famous corners. Not so many super good overtaking opportunities, so the drivers will have to get a little bit creative tonight. But I'll bet you that won't be a problem for any of these guys out there. They are hungry for the win. Or well, at least hungry, because we don't pay them very well, so... You know what it is. Anyways, I think we do have a track guide lining up in some sort of archive. Oh, we already found it. Jesus Christ. As we take the drone camera down the start-finish straight before heading into the famous turns 1 and 2 of the track. The early trail braking into turn 1 before the second part. We do often see cars running wide here, and not having the brake bias right will lose you a lot of traction on the rear and probably get you into a spin before we head into the wonderful S's. Balancing the car, just missing an apex by 10 centimeters around here, going in with a little bit too much speed, and you'll lose multiple seconds if you get this one wrong. So important to get it right all evening long. Probably going to see some side-by-side on the first lap before we head into to the Dunlop curve, the long double left-hander. Just sort of straightens out around here, but it's full throttle when you go through the first part before heading into the famous Degner corners. Corners where we do often see drivers getting two wheels onto the grass before turning in because so focused on that apex, and on this narrow track it's so easy to get the wheels out there, braking and then spinning it around through the two Degners underneath the bridge. Only figure of 8 circuit we go racing at before getting up to the hairpin. One of the big overtaking opportunities on the track. There are so many different braking lines, and you can gain a lot by setting it up on the inside. Not gaining a lot, but the optimum line will be on the left-hand side coming into the corner, so that will leave it wide open. Going down through turn 12 into Spoon, flat out into this tricky braking zone. It is surprisingly dropping quite a lot when you go downhill through Spoon, and the off camber on the exit especially have a tendency to catch people out. Have to just wait so long before we get on the throttle, and then just hitting it down the back straight, full throttle up to 130R. Quick tap on the brakes before turning in, gearing down to 5th. Very likely in most cars, most drivers will do so. As quickly on the throttle as you possibly can. Difficult to get right, very punishing to get wrong before the Casio triangle, the main overtaking zone of this track. Big braking zone all the way down through the gears. Tight right-hander, tight left-hander, and then onto the start-finish straight pit lane just off to the right-hand side here, where I've actually managed to Austin power a GT3 car once, getting it completely stuck with no possibility of getting it out of there. Very proud of that moment. Nevertheless, that was a lap of the wonderful Suzuka circuit, where we surely will see tons and tons of action as we progress through this evening. Do remember it is a 75-minute race, which means the strategies are quite a bit more open than usual. Normally you have to take tires in the pits, but in the 75-minute races you just have to take fuel. Tires are optional. So some drivers, they might choose to go for it, especially on a track like Suzuka. It could be a thing coming in at about the 37-minute marker of the race and take a fresh set of tires. If you don't opt for the tire change, then we are very likely to see the drivers either peel in early to take just the bare minimum of fuel needed to get to the end, or peel in on the dying laps of the race just to be as in as much clean air as possible out there on the track. So that surely will be something to look out for as well. We'll try and keep a hand on the strategies as we go through this evening. Speaking of this evening, we have a few more good racing evenings up ahead of us. Starting off with a look at the championship that we are in right now, the Tuesday night GT3 championship. Barcelona is behind us. Suzuka, we are racing tonight. In 2 weeks' time, we'll go racing at Donington Park. 60 minutes of racing. It's going to be a great race. I do love Donington as a driving track. I have great memories of racing there, both good and not so good memories, of course, but a challenging place. The elevation actually catches a lot of people out around that very, very tight, typical British racing track. Well, if you count out Silverstone, of course, of that equation. The Nurburgring, of course, in round 4, GP or Nordschleife. Not sure. I think Nordschleife, maybe. Probably. No, GP. Nurburgring. It will be for 75 minutes on the 28th of October. And then rounding out the season. The season. Rounding out the season. The Temple of Speed Monza itself on the 11th of November. Definitely going to be tons of overtakes there. And great track for racing. But that's not the only things that we have lined up for you. Oh, no. We also have the Sunday night season. I'm not sure that there will be commentary on that one nor broadcasting, but it is definitely happening. Where they have been driving Mount Panorama already and Snetterton. Something that I would have loved to do. Snetterton, great track. Super challenging. And those tight and twisty British circuits where you can't really make an overtake if you don't force it. Super fun to do. But they will head off to Silverstone next time on the 5th of October, this Sunday, actually. Before they will go to Watkins Glen and finishing out the season at Oulton Park, almost sort of a British GT championship, including the colonies, of course, of old. With that calendar, definitely worth getting yourselves into if you're out there wondering what you should spend your Sunday nights on doing or Sunday evenings on doing. Racing with us in this GT3 championship would be a valid option, at least for that. Especially here in the dark winter month. Other interesting championships that we will have going on would be the SLMS Championship, the SSRI SLMS Championship Season 3 we have gotten ourselves into at this point. Fuji have already taken place. Next time we'll go racing 90 minutes at Imola. One of the, I would say, more unique tracks to the WEC. We do have it on ACC, of course, well, but the hypercars around Imola, that is a sight to watch. Definitely going to be a great race that we'll see on the 8th of October. Bi-weekly championship on Wednesday evenings. Have a look out for the number 1 car there, the humble champion of last season. Probably not going to be this season, but hey ho, look out for that car. That's definitely one for the eyes. Imola next up for these guys before we're heading on to Kota in round 3, Qatar round 4, and then Portimao to finish off the season in round 5. All of these tracks are challenging in their own unique ways. I actually thought Interlagos would be on there, but definitely isn't. But nevertheless, Kota, Imola, Qatar, and Portimao. Tune in on Wednesday evenings bi-weekly. That will be for some great entertainment. And speaking of great entertainment, we have qualifying going on in the background. I think I can hear some cars rumbling at least. And Jesus, what a pack we have gotten ourselves into here with 2 Lexi on the track. Or Lexuses. Brazil prefers the term lesbians. Actually quite a few Lexuses. At least 4, I think, on the track. There's Martin Coy, Mogul, Preppers, and Qualit. Ian van der Linden, at least in the picture. 3 wildcard drivers this time around. 3 of them in the Lexi. The Lexus Triple. Whatever. It's Martin Coy, Mogul, and call it, not a usual championship drivers in here on wildcards this evening. So they will be interesting to follow. Martin Coy, the winner of the Silver Championship last season. I actually think he won all the rounds, if I'm not mistaken, completely. Definitely won a lot of them. Interesting to see what he can do this evening here at Suzuka. Speaking of Martin Coy, no, well, speaking of, not so much anymore. Speaking of fast drivers, Samuel van Liebenstein, he did seem to find a lot of pace in that Porsche last time out at Barcelona. Let's see what he can do this evening at Suzuka. Porsche should be soothing this track quite nicely, as it is one of those more nimble cars that does like to go through the corners. But question is if the front engine cars are a preferable choice, as they handle the curbs much better, as a big queue is forming up just before the Casio triangle, with drivers getting ready to start their first flying lap. Van Liebenstein looks good so far. Opts not to take a lot of the curbing through the S's. Into Dunlop from this point, full throttle. Let's see, the first time he'll have to navigate through the Deckness. Will he take it nice and easy, or will he just fully send it? A little bit easy, it looked like. Could have been slightly late on the brakes, maybe. Goes through Deckner 2 as well, could have carried more speed, but not as much as the BMW behind. That took a little bit too much. Through the hairpin we go, keeps it out of wheel spin. A lot of drivers, they choose to switch the TC off, or at least down to near zero, going through the hairpin to get maximum traction out of there. But we have seen that backfire before, and cars go spinning wildly out of control. Into Spoon we go. Oh, let's look at that steering wheel as he saws it through. A lot of movement on that wheel, just trying to be a little bit too eager on the throttle there maybe, but gets it through at least and onto the back straight. With Samuel van Liebenstein as he goes into 130R for the first time at full speed. Doesn't leave much room on the outside there. Looks perfect almost through. Still keeps 6th throughout. Into the triangle he goes. Mounts the curves, mounts the second curve, and then fully on the throttle. Takes that inside curve as well. Not all drivers do that. Somewhat halfway taking the F1 line up and down. Not that it matters, because the finish is so far down the straight. With a 2 minutes 0.4 as the initial time being set. As Jordy Peters just smashes it with a 2.157. Peters, one of the favorites to take the win this evening. Fredriksson puts his name into the bowl as well. Didn't see much of him in the first round. I do think that he ended up with a top 3, just around the podium at least. Yeah, he did finish in 3rd, but yeah, he had that mighty battle early on, but then he fell sort of out of view as he had a lot of driving on his own. So somewhat anonymous driving there from Fredriksson in the first race, but he did have tons of pace once he got released, and could decide himself how fast he was going in that race. Van der Linden across the line, jumps up to 8th in the Porsche. Martin Coy, even with the hiatus, he have taken up into 7th position so far, just keeping it within a second of the provisional pole time. Regan Mitchell. Oh, that's Van der Linden. Goes a little bit too aggressive there. Hits the wall, back to the garage, and then fresh set of tires before he goes out again. Regan Mitchell seems to have a little bit of an issue on the first flying lap that he put down, as he's currently set in 15th, 1.9 seconds behind the provisional pole time. Jordy Peters looks fast this time around. Through 130R he goes. Could probably have carried a little bit more speed, just a tiny bit though. Into the Casio triangle, taking as much curb as he possibly can. Full throttle around. Just keeping that car on the edges of the grip. And across the line Peters goes. new provisional pole already beneath the 2-minute marker. It will be interesting to see how far down the drivers they can push it this evening of racing. Will Fredriksson have an answer for this? He just recently crossed the line, so not initially at least. But still out there going. De Kunt up into to third. Vargas also up there in fourth. Regan Mitchells puts a slightly more competitive time in, still just under half a second after Jordi Peters. So long way up for him. Peters back into the pits. Same for Ottleman, it looks like. In the number 80 right next to him. I think that Peters are adjusting something on the setup as he's taking quite a while getting back out there. When you get into the pits, you can just take fresh tires and go immediately, but I think Jordi might be doing some setup changes, same for Ottleman. Fredriksson in the toe of another car. Whether that's an advantage or a hindrance, we'll have to wait and see. Usually it's not a good sign because if the car ahead of him is on a flying lap, then he does not have to give way. So Fredriksson will have to make the move past himself. And I must say, if the car ahead is also on a flying lap, then it would be very crazy for him to try for it here. Probably better to just fall back as we see Fredriksson have done. And then try again next time around. Makes way for the drivers going through. Helmout improves up to 8th, leader of the silver class. Strong lap this time around, and big gap down to the second placed car in class, almost an entire second down to Misha Melis, who sat 17th overall. Van Melis in the bright orange BMW. Take the shortest run possibly to the line, improves just one position up into 12th. Gets ahead of Parties though. As we are nearing that magical halfway point of qualifying where most drivers will likely choose to take a fresh set of tires. It is interesting with driver strategies, of course. A crash in qualifying doesn't mean so much. You just go back in with fresh tires, but how you set your car, how much fuel you take when you go out, that's quite interesting. Some drivers, they will take just enough fuel for one out lap, one flying lap. Others, they will go for maybe one out lap, 2 flying laps. Some will go for half an hour to do 10 minutes of qualifying on one tank before taking fresh tires. Others, they will just stay out there. Big moment there from Van der Linden. Keeps control of it, but that ruined that lap completely, as he did look to be improving there. But as I was saying, some drivers, they like to stay out for the entirety of the qualifying, just pacing themselves through, hoping to get quicker and quicker as time progresses. But that's individual choices from the drivers. Some of them might even have teams behind them and engineers. Mogul, one of the wildcard drivers. In the 35 Lexus, he is improving. Currently up by 0.5 of a second. Just the Casio triangle to beat. Doesn't look half slow there, but cuts a lot there on the inside. I wonder if that was legal or not. We'll have to wait and see till he crosses the line. Does look legal so far, I'm being told. Cross the line he goes from 16th to 8th. Jumps up ahead of Martin Koy and Helmout, leader of silver class at the minute. De Kunt in the Bentley goes ahead of Fredriksson. Bentley looks super strong at Suzuka this evening. What a lap from Dimitri de Koy. Or Kunt. strong performance. I would love to see that Bentley all the way up there in the front of the field. Less than a 10th behind the mighty Jordy Peters, currently set in first. Only the top 8 are within a second at this point. That could quickly change, but then from 9th all the way down to 19th, that's 10 drivers. Actually 11, that's within another second. So it is tight around the field. Small improvements could be detrimental this evening to improve your position here in qualifying. Whoa, a little bit of a moment there from Ottelman through Spoon. Keeps it under control and on track, it looked like. Probably just cost him a little bit there on the exit, but that will also lose him as a little bit of top speed, and that speed that will cost him time all the way down to 130R. And right just on the edges of the curb. Remember, the curb are the track limit through 130R. As he goes through the Casio triangle, almost dips 2 wheels into the gravel there. Full throttle. Can clearly see it does look nice. Across the line he goes. 10th. Actually almost a second slower than his provisional best. Oh, that's a bit wide. Garcia following up behind in the red and white Mode 11 car. The Porsche Mode 11. 1 Porsche and 2 BMWs of that team at least. Yeah, and the Lexus of Patrick Treffers, of course. As Garcia looks lovely through Dunlop and into a little bit of dirt there being kicked up ahead of Wolf Garcia. He goes wide, almost ramming into the back of Fredriksson there. We've been on a little bit of an excursion through the Degner corners. So Garcia likely not to improve on this one. It did look quite invalid there through Degner too, I must say. But let's see, if I was him, I would probably just save a little bit of tires. Dirt was kicked up on the inside there. That's Shug Vavard, who's going through the S's as we are speaking. He could need a little bit of an improvement. Sat down in 25th position at the minute out of the 29 drivers. Matt Pryor not doing too well in the Pro Ferrari, the number 7. But he might just have joined him. Though 3 seconds is the gap for him. But let's see Shug Vavard through the Degners. He have gone into the hairpin. 1 Lexus behind. I think that's the full-time Lexus of Patrick Treffers, as he's the only one running that black Lexus livery. The other ones went with the Emil Frey. Treffers definitely flashing the lights there, but I'm not too sure if Shug is on an invalid lap. I don't think so. So Shug have all the rights in the world to be there. And Treffers also goes wide into Spoon. I think that Vavard is from here, even, or something like that, with those badges on the rear, on the end plates of the spoiler there. Could look like some stuff from that region at least. But I tell you what, this is definitely a car that we will be able to spot from the commentary shed. Very bright in the colors. Onto the start-finish straight he goes, 2.7 to find. Across the line. No improvements this time around, but he will go for 1 more at least. Does have time to put in 3 laps if you have the fuel for it. Do remember you are allowed to finish the lap that you have started when the timer hits 0. Fredriksson needs to find 0.3 of a second plus change to go ahead of Jordy Peters, who currently leads qualifying. with the Coit or the Kund, the Knut, the Knut. I'll just keep butchering that all evening. The Bentley in P2. Might be Knoit, but that was not the best of entrances there for the Casio Triangle for Fredriksson. Definitely lost out on that. But he still have time for 2 more laps. Across the line he goes. Yeah, no improvements there, but to be fair, only 2/10 away from improving. Definitely lost that in the triangle. Nick Vargas currently set in 5th position. 0.4 behind Jordy Peters. Could be in for a rare chance of pole position, Nick Vargas. I think he's running out of fuel as he takes the narrow line. Across it, he goes up into 2nd for Nick Vargas. Strong lap there from Nick. He'll go into the pit. He could potentially sneak it out and go for 1 more flying lap if you have a pit box near the end of the pit lane. He will only have about 30 seconds to spare, so he will need to get a hurry on and get some fuel in that car, some fresh tires, and get moving. Fredriksson set in 4th position as we are speaking. Super tight between the top 5 drivers. Through the long right-hander before Spoon. Going there, positive camera for the first part, and then changes to negative as you leave the second part of Spoon here. At this point, it just drags the car out off the track. You just see there how Fredriksson's car gets almost pulled onto the gravel there, but keeps it on track at least. Let's see into the 130R. Riding that curve so nicely. That looks super quick through there. Casio Triangle to go, where it all went wrong last time out. Cuts it as tight as humanly possible. That's so close to track limits there for Fredriksson. Really using all of the track available for him. Could this be pole? Looks so good this lap so far. Across the line, he'll go in about a second's time. Across the line, provisional pole, 1:59.6. That's a quick lap around here. Strong performance there from Fredriksson. Still enough time for 1 more for him. Regan Mitchells in the old Ferrari, the 488. Little bit of a wobble there. The car have been strong at Suzuka before. Let's see this time around. Will he improve? Currently set in 5th. Half a second to find. No. But just 100th of a second slower than his current best. He does have 1 more shot. Dimitri Knoit in the Bentley. Look at that. That's a BMW ahead. That might give him just a little bit of a tow. Whoa! That was close for the Bentley there. Super wobbly through the corners. This car will ride the curves nicely usually. Let's see. Does look quick. Haven't seen much of the first lap, but does look like an improvement so far. This takes the narrow line. Across it he goes into pole. 59.4. Where did that come from? Super lap. Even with the big wobble there through 130R. Strong drive from the Dutch driver. This will be an interesting start to the race if this holds on. But let's see, Regan Mitchells might have something to say about the current top 4. Peters and Vargas, De Knoit as well, they will not be improving. They have gone to the pits. Garcia as well, basically only Van Liebenstein and Mitchells out there. Fredriksson as well still going. That could potentially snatch that pole away, though. Van Liebenstein would basically have to pull a rabbit out of a hat to get that. Also, rain expected in 10 minutes, so it could be a wet start to the race. Fredriksson into the pit he goes. Peters done with his lap. Only Regal Mitchells who could challenge for that pole as it looks at the minute. Let's see. Through the Casio Triangle he goes. Needs to keep it planted. Still on the white line. Let's see across the line. Mitchells, no, keeps it in 5th. Which also means best wildcard driver would be Mogul, and Helmut takes the silver pole, unless if Steve Parker have something to say about that. Van der Linden also out there on track. But let's see, the Drift King himself. Through the Casio triangle, he goes and across. I keep thinking about the Formula 1 timing line, but we take the start line to the finish. 24 for Peters. Oh, sorry, for Parker. Great qualifying. I think we will we'll tune in a little moment's time, roughly 3 to 4 minutes, as we do need our mandatory union mandated break just before the race. Very important when it's a 75-minute race, so we'll be right back after these words for our non-existent sponsors. We are back as we get ready to get the drivers out on the formation lap. Looks to be clear skies for the first half hour of the race at least. But I think that's a little bit of a worry for some of the drivers that they did see that rain cloud pop up at the end there of qualifying. So potential chance of rain later on in the race. So a lot of these drivers, they will very likely have fueled up to go as deep as possible to keep the strategies open. Dimitri de Knoit in the pole position with the mighty Bentley. Ahead of Tesh Fredriksson in the Lamborghini and Jordi Peterson third. Again, Mogul best wildcard driver in silver. It will be Helmut who takes charge of that class in 12th overall. Patrick Treffers lines up in second on 18th overall with Iron Fighter Linden just behind for the top three there. Final chance for the drivers to check their MFDs. They will already have chosen their starting fuel, of course, and hopefully fueled the cars up for race situation. Fresh tires on the cars as well. Likely there's usually someone who forgets to put fresh tires on, but hey ho, that happens. But final chance to set up the various strategies in the MFD. Personally, when I go racing like this, I would usually have 3 strategies on the hot menu. Strat 1, 2, and 3. Strat 1 would be a minimum fuel possible, no tires in a race like this. Strat 2 would be, again, minimum fuel possible, but a tire change. And then Strat 3 would be in case of rain, so the wets would be ready with the fuel, of course, as well. It's of course different from driver to driver and team to team how they like to set up that kind of stuff, but let's see as this race progresses what will be the A, B, and C strategies around here. Looks like a car choosing to start from pit lane, maybe even 2. That could be due to a disconnect and then rejoining as the formation lap had already begun, or maybe even a strategy call to start from there. It's only one of the pits. It's Staring who starts from pit lane. Here we go. In the 303. It's Quold as well. Looks like we've just joined in on the server in the Lexus, one of the wildcard drivers. As the drivers, they will be getting ready at this point to start the side-by-side formation and get ready for the starting procedures. Getting the last bit of heat into the tires and brakes. Once you start going side by side, usually the strategy will be to run 1 foot on the throttle and 1 on the brake to generate some heat in the brakes, so you can actually stop when you head into to turn 1. As the whole field have almost bunched up and are ready to go as they go around the final corner through the Casio triangle, the slowest they'll be going through here all race, hopefully. As ladies and gentlemen, and those who identify otherwise, we are shortly about to be that's long as holy racing. Good start from Fredriksson, who takes the lead away from Decoy. Peters also up there in third, defending off Vargas. It looks like almost contact there through turn 1, but they keep it clean. Nice and easy in the back of the field, clean through turn 1 and 2. It looks like into the S as we go. Fredriksson leads the way, and the mighty pack of roaring cars behind. Quite in the Bentley following tightly there. And as goes on further down the field, P7, that's von Liebenstein with, that's not Ottoman behind. Who's that? That, no, not the Lexus, that other Porsche. That's Ottoman. Oh, that's a Garcia ahead of Ottoman. And the two Porsches left through the deck as we go. Still very clean start. The pit lane stars have gone back out on track as well. Top racing so far. Looks clean. No one going for the crazy dives early on. The drivers knows that it's a 75-minute race, which means that keeping it clean will be out from one driver. Have gone around, it looks like, in the Degnas. That's the 36th car who have retired from the race. Early retirement there. Unfortunate for him or her. That's one of the Lexuses, I believe. That's a Quallard. Also starting from the pit, so not a good start to his racing career here as the wildcard driver, but I hope we'll see him back on track in 2 weeks' time. Meanwhile, in the front, Fredriksson have managed to get a little bit of a gap. Not that much, just a tiny bit of breathing room after lap 1 for him. But Peters closely following Dimitri Knoit. Dutch versus Belgium. In the battle for the 2 secondary place. Oh, that's Dosberg. Seems to have hit the wall there between the pits. Oh, no damage on the front. Might just have had a spin. Keeping it out of the wall. We'll probably find out in a little bit. Meanwhile, Vargas on the offense as well. That's Jordi Peters just ahead of him. Vargas with a great start. He did do well in season 1 of the Sunday Championship, where he was duking it out with, I believe, Ottelman maybe for the championship there. In the Triple 11 Mode 11 racing machine. The blue and white of the Mode 11 cars. But Regan Mitchell also in contention right behind, not giving up on the toe. Following into the spoon. That's also a difference between the cars. I think we will see the BMW take the curbs slightly more aggressive throughout the race than the Ferrari behind, for example. As those front-engine cars just seem to have a lot more stability on the curbs. Suzuka not the worst track for the curbs though, but it surely will be something to look out for how the BMW does that. Here's what happened to Van Dosberg. That's Van Vaart ahead. Into the Casio triangle. Great livery, by the way. Wow, just hitting that curb. Oh, it just makes contact there to the inside barrier. Not with a lot of speed though, so probably just a bit of aero damage on that McLaren. Hopefully it will not be too much to warrant an early pit stop, but Dosberg does keep going. Meanwhile, Vargas really putting the pressure on Jordi Peters. But the S's are not a place to overtake. It doesn't matter how quick you are, that's so difficult through there. Into the Degnas, on board with Vargas. Using all of the track available. The Degna 2 are usually where we see the track warnings around here. Brief reminder on the track warnings. You can get 3 cuts, but the 4th one, that you'll get a drive-through penalty, which will be so damaging to your race to get, especially on a track like Suzuka. And in a 75-minute race, you just really don't have the time to make up that lost ground from a drive-through penalty. So I think the drivers will try to avoid the silly mistakes. Heading into 130R once again. With Mogul here in one of the Lexus running a little bit wide. As he's giving chase to Von Liebenstein and Wolf Garcia just up ahead in the two Porsches. The Porsches seem to be very, very strong at Barcelona last time out, but no dominance this time from the German manufacturer. Also, Fredriksen doesn't seem to be breaking away anymore from Dimitri de Knooijer. Further down the field, Martin Koy in the back of this battle group. Defending silver champion. Not a full-time driver this season, as he doesn't have the time due to personal stuff. Personal matter, real life comes first, of course. Little bit of stake there from Helmut that puts Koy directly in the attacking position, but the S's are still just not the place to go for anything silly. Trying to get the overspeed into the Degners. It is quite usual that you can get the overspeed in there, but again, very hard to make the move. You really need to be almost fully alongside to make that happen, because there's really only room for one car when you start to turn into to Degner 1. Through the hairpin. And still giving the chase are the number 6 car. The Vinshavi approves team. Don't know who Mr. Vinshavi is, but there might be a story to be told. Tucking into the slipstream. With that further up the field, that's Ottelman on the attack on Van der Linden. Super close, he could go far into the braking zone, stays behind. For now at least. Chapel right behind, just lurking in the all-black Lamborghini as he gets a little bit of a slide on. I think Chapel will get under severe pressure now into turn 1 by Helmut and maybe even Martin Koy if this doesn't pan out right. Chapel forced to go a little bit defensive there. That's Koy in the background showing himself, but not quite there for the move. We did see Reinder Helmut last time out making a little bit of a mistake in the S's. Let's see if he can clean it up this time around. Elsewise, I think Martin Koy will be all over him, ready to take full advantage as again going wide there. We talked about it earlier. That's a very big time loss, and look how close Koy gets. Whoa, Chapel with a little bit of a mistake, going slow into the Dunlops. Now he's onto the grass, and that's a place where you really don't want to be on the grass. It just pulls you further and further out when you hit that on the outside of Dunlop. But Chapel dropping down behind Van Melis goes Chapel. Don't think that he went further down than that. He seemed to have kept it under control, but losing out the position there to both Helmut Koy and Bas Van Melis, who's just lurking in the background. And look at that, ladies and gentlemen, on the weather radar. Rain expected in 30 minutes. Unlucky for the drivers who only fueled for the first half of the race, but this will become clutch for others. This could be a very, very interesting race if that rain intensifies so much that we'll have to get a change onto the wet tires. Further down the field, Martin van der Kraan on board with him. The classic red Ferrari livery that he have been running since forever, it seems like. No doubts when you see the red and black Ferrari, it's Van der Kraan. Whoa. Trevor's there behind, pushing it maybe a little bit too hard. It is Degner 2 and then that 130R where the track limits are a big risk when you go through. I think that Trevor's lifted there to avoid getting a track limits warning. Still on board with Van der Kraan as we go onto the helicopter. reasonable lap times for the car, also not that far behind further up. Speaking of further up, the action just continues to happen all around us at the minute. It seems like this is Garcia, Van Liebenstein, and Mogul. 2 Porsches and a Lexus. Garcia in the front car, the red and white Mode 11 liveried Porsche. Garcia, sorry, Van Liebenstein in the SVL racing car. The very bright looking car, green and yellow, and then the Lexus behind with Mogul. That's the one of the in-game Lexus liveries. See, Mogul takes a different line to Van Liebenstein there through the hairpin. I think that the line Mogul took are what I would usually do as well. Bottom right hand side battle going on. That's for the lead. No, sorry, for P2. That's for P2. That's Knoit, Peters, Vargas. And then just in the background, Regan Mitchell still haven't given up on staying in the toe of these guys. Tons of action all around, but I think Tish Fredrickson is just smiling out ahead. We did see, oh, yellow flags and Spoon. That's Chapel. That's Chapel in the black Lambo that's gone off. But we did see when we went endurance racing here about a year ago that Lamborghini struggled in the rain. So Fredrickson will need to build up that gap, but already 2.2 seconds at this point. That could be because Dimitri de Knoit, he does have to think a little bit about defense as he's looking at Peters from behind. Fast lap, de Knoit goes wide, Peters goes through. Will there be enough room for Vargas as well? They're very close into the S's this time. Not quite, but that's Jordy Peters who makes the position, goes ahead of de Knoit. So let's see if he can run away now. That would be optimum for Jordy Peters and try to catch up to Tej Fredrickson, who have run away a little bit out there in the lead. But that's the thing, can he make that gap? It does look like that de Knoit still have a little bit of focus in the rear view mirrors, as he's now in that difficult middle position in a train like this. Both having to think about offense and defense. Probably more thinking about defending from Nick Vargas at the minute than he is attacking Jordy Peters. As Vargas just shows himself a little bit there, forcing Coit to think a little bit about it. Meanwhile, Garcia going defensive into the hairpin just behind him, the main frame, with Van Liebenstein giving chase. Looks like that Mogul have dropped a little bit in that battle. Not out of it, I would say, but dropped a little bit behind. As the quadrant of cars in the battle for P2 goes flying down the back straight. Same for this P6 battle that we're looking at on the big screen at the minute. Top 4 through 130R, not making any mistakes there. Close into the Casio triangle still. Not quite close enough for anyone to try and go for a move. Regan Mitchell seems to be dropping from the back of the train. He's still just kind of in the range of being the caboose of the train, but driving behind Bas van Melis have gone around. That's between the Casio triangle and 130R. Wow, that's big damage to the Mode 11 car. As he goes to the pits, I think that's race over from the Dutch driver of Bas van Melis. He is a little bit of an unlucky bird in these races, it seems like. He's either doing very stable lap times consistently, or he gets involved in something usually not down to his own fault, but gets collected in incidents quite often. Unfortunate for our good friend Bas there, as that will definitely have cost him any good chances of points this afternoon or evening of racing. Meanwhile, the four-way battle for P2 is still going on. Look how close they get through the hairpin. At some point, Vargas will probably have a think about getting in there. Let's see what happened to Bas van Melis. All alone, running, hitting the inside curb. Going on, just dropping it on the outside. They're losing grip on the edge of the curb. The car might have bottomed out as he hits that barrier. very, very hard. That's big damage. Good awareness of Bas to just keep it parked on the track, not doing any unexpected movement, and then moving out of the way as there was a little bit of a gap there on the track. Brilliant mind to think of keeping it safe in a situation like that. But that's it's still Peters. Peters haven't broken away yet, as he had a little bit of a bad Casio triangle there. Not losing too much time though, but it did look like Diknoit gained just that little bit that could be important for potential attack later, but he will have to stay with him through the S's though, through turn 1 and 2. Looks like Diknoit have a little bit more grip when he goes there. He can sort of like turn the car a little bit more than the Porsche driver of Peters at the same speed. Look how close he's getting. It does look like that Peters are the slowest of the bunch through the S's, but that Porsche does have that mighty grip when it comes to acceleration out of Dunlop and down to the Degners. Vargas just a tad too far behind to really do anything about the battle up ahead. Having the mirrors full of Regan Mitchells. Meanwhile, Garcia still under pressure from von Liebenstein behind. With the Lexus just edging in the background. Also looks like there's a train forming behind both Manamoniak and Matt Pryor. Further down the field. But for Liebenstein this time all over the rear wing of Wolf Garcia. Out of Spoon. Just losing a little bit that too eager on the throttle. Too eager there from von Liebenstein as he have to put the chase in. He does have the advantage of slipstream. Can be a little bit challenging to be in the slipstream when you get into 130R because you do lose a lot of grip as well. The car ahead of you punches the hole through the air. That gives you that much better acceleration if you don't have the same wind resistance. But that also means that you don't have any wind coming down on your wings on the car, which means less downforce. That means that you don't have the grip when you go into to the corners. Especially those high-speed corners can be treacherous. Fredriksson still not really pulling away from the battle behind. I think Fredriksson would have liked the quadrant of cars behind to be battling a little bit more than they are. That does seem to be. I don't think that they're necessarily happy about the positions they are in, but they're just matched so well in pace that they can't really challenge for any possible overtakes. It is sort of the curse of Suzuka that it's difficult. Alderman with the drive-through penalty. That's early on the track limits, as he have been defending from Van der Linden. That could have been the cause that he might have just been a little bit too aggressive on the defending, just risking it that tad too much that that gave him that drive-through. Again, in a situation where Regan Mitchell have dropped a little bit behind of the train. Connecting and disconnecting as the caboose repeatedly does Regan Mitchell's. Oh, Regan Mitchell does no S at the end. Meanwhile, this time, von Liebenstein and Garcia close together through 130R. Garcia risking a little bit, trying to stay with him, but not quite close enough to get the lunge into the Casio triangle. But Mogul on the attack and forcing von Liebenstein to go a little bit wide there. Trying to get on the throttle, struggling with the car. That's Mogul that gets the overtake done down the front straight. And Mogul up into 7th position now with Garcia, with von Liebenstein dropping to 8th. Ottoman comes into the pit. He will likely drop near the back of the pack when he exits after serving the drive-through penalty. And no, that does not count as the mandatory stop, as you do have to take fuel when you go through pit lane for that to count. Looked like that Peter's got a little bit of dirt there underneath the wheels through the Degners. You can see that he's definitely not relaxing in that P2 position. Meanwhile, both Vargas and de Knuit getting super close there through the hairpin. Also, Mogul seems to have caught up super quickly to Garcia. And that could be a potential battle brewing there. Meanwhile, this time Vargas much closer to de Knuit, coming onto the run into to 130R. You don't really want to be too fast coming into 130R. It's the exit of it where you want to be quicker. But that's difficult when you don't have that wind to push your car down. As they go through the triangle. De Knuit with a slightly worse line than Vargas, if Vargas can get that power down. Not quite. A little bit of a moment there from Mogul in the small screen. But he stays with Garcia. Vargas showing himself in the mirrors, but not quite close enough to go for it into turn 1 and 2. The braking into turn 1 is actually not that long, but you can still sort of sneak it up underneath another car if you try to. Meanwhile, Mogul there, super aggressive, almost touching the back of Garcia. They are getting close together as they went through turn 1 and 2. Into the S's they go, with opportunities for battling as they come out of them in a few moments' time. Meanwhile, Vargas dropping through the S's to de Knuit, and then it looks like that Vargas could sort of catches up through the Degners and the hairpin last time around. Let's see if he does the same this time. But de Knuit much tighter to Jordy Peters. Trying the cut around, not this time around for him. Will Mogul try the lunge? No, he stays behind as well, but does get Garcia to go a little bit defensive there into the hairpin. That could cost him on the run into Spoon. As they all just tucked nicely between each other. Mitchell just on the edge of being disconnected from the train. Meanwhile, Mogul this time, big overspeed into 130R, side by side into 130R. Will this go well? Garcia on the inside, Mogul on the outside. Mogul does make it happen. Outside move into 130R. Boy, do you have to look a long way to get that to happen. But successfully done. Good run out of Spoon. Not the best of Garcia as well. Helped him a long way in that one. Mogul seemed to have a lot of pace early on in the race. We do know the Lexus is a little bit of a challenging car on the tires if you run it in a fast configuration with the cambers. Then it does eat the tires quite a lot more than a lot of the other cars. But let's see if Mogul have the pace to catch up to Mitchell ahead of him. 8.5 seconds is the gap as they cross the line. 50 minutes of racing remain. And if the rain gets as aggressive as predicted, then it will be a change onto the wet tires. That could cause some troubles for some cars. But let's see in about 10 to 15 minutes time if someone only fueled for half of the race, thinking that it would have been dry all the way through and coming in for tires, or what would have been tires. But at this point you might as well just want to take a splash of fuel to get to the rain and then do your refueling there and the tire change onto the wets. Because on the rules on ACC, the cars, they do have the ability to refuel and change tires at the same time. So if you're anyways changing tires, then you might as well also be putting the fuel in the car. Here's a replay of Garcia, not what we were looking for, but I think it's a move into 130R that we were aiming to see from the roof of Mogul. Look at that! Oh, Garcia just leaving him the room, knowing that that Mogul would be there. That's top awareness from both drivers. Pulling that off is so difficult, both when you are overtaking and being overtaken through 130R. Beautiful move. That will probably be one of those that we will remember for a long time. Meanwhile, Vargas right on the edge of the Knoit. He have gotten right back up to it. Mitchell have been disconnected from the train, and 10 minutes until the rain starts, it looks like. So that would actually be right around the time where if you only fuel for half of the race, where it would be time to come in anyway. So if you did that, then the question remains whether or not that you take the wets early, or if you take 2 stops. Because at this point, it's definitely looking like it will be wet tire conditions. Meanwhile, Mitchell actually regaining a little bit of ground to the train. He keeps getting disconnected and connected back again. Maybe he was just saving some tires or something like that, and now just pushing to get back up and trying for a move. But that will also be the thing. If the drivers have set the cars up for drier conditions on this track, then you'll usually run with not a lot of wing on the car. But if you have set it up for mixed conditions or even wet racing, then you would be running a lot more wing on these racing machines. So everything could change as the rain comes. Definitely would prefer to be in one of the front engine cars when that happens. BMW is so strong in the rain. I can't say that I've driven the Bentley much myself in wet conditions, but I would imagine that it could be reasonable, although the long wheelbase might be a little bit of a challenge. But we'll have to wait and see. Time will tell, and it is what it is. It looks like he took a little bit too much speed into it there, and then having to dab the brakes further down the field. Helmut and Manemoniak. They actually have Van der Kran right behind as well, and Patrick Treffers in this quadrant of drivers. It is the lead of the silver class, leading the train, and P2 in class on the rear end. Getting a little bit dicey there from the 2 drivers, almost side by side into the start of the SS, at least with the chance of it. Both cars running sort of like the color combinations that were made very popular by Braun GP, with the white car with the neon green and a little bit of black as well. Does look rather splendid, does look fast when you run cars like this. But one thing is the looks, another thing is how they go on track. 3 different manufacturers in this battle: Ferrari, McLaren and Lexus. And 3 different cars in the way that you drive them. The Ferrari really nice, but you have to be a little bit careful with the gearing of the car. Really want to keep some revs on that one. The McLaren slightly more aggressive to drive when you're behind the wheel. First time you get behind the wheel of the McLaren, the steering might feel a little bit off, as it is slightly different to drive than most of the mid-engine cars, and then the Lexus, of course, in the back. Tons of torque in that one. And it looks heavy, but it's roughly the same weight, all of these cars, so not too much of a difference there. Oh, taking all of the track available does Menomoniac. As they head onto the start-finish line, snaking their way down, trying to break the toe. Not really successful on that, but into turn 1 we go. Looks like that the drivers are strong at different parts of the track. Almost thought they were going side by side there. It does look like Menomaniac, he does have a different line there through turns 1 and 2 than Helmout. Maybe even the quicker line as Van der Kran, really also closing up the gap as we went through. And Trevor's just lurking in the background. Into the Degner's tight. Ooh, little bit of a slide there from the McLaren. Keeps it under control. Travers runs a little bit deep. But let's see, will it be time for the dive into the hairpin? No, still not quite. You do need to be right. Whoa, big mistake there from Helmout. Going way too wide there. But getting the better traction out of the hairpin. Switching sides. Down, coming into Spoon. Shorter distance from Menomaniac to go for an outside move. Will it be on? Oh, just can't keep it on track limits, but both of these drivers will be compromised on the exit of Spoon. Van der Kran could potentially get the better of the two of them. Down the back straight we go. In and out of the slipstream. This could be very, very mighty into 1/3. Yeah, Van der Kran, he did consider it, but pulled back in. Thinking twice about it, being the smarter of the drivers. Same goes for Helmout there, not, Menomaniac not trying for the move. Trevor's almost getting involved into the Casio triangle, as he had quite a bit more speed than Van der Kran, but covered off nicely there by the Ferrari driver. On board with Trevor's inside the mighty Lexus. You can see the headlights illuminating on the back of the Ferrari. Just getting that a little bit too wide there from Trevor's, it looks like. It can be difficult if the cars that you're battling against, they have slightly different braking zones, maybe, or techniques even coming into to the braking areas. Then you could get a little bit of, I'm not shocked, but yeah, well, maybe shocked, a little bit surprised, I would say, and then just hammering the brake too aggressive too early, and then stuff like that will happen when the car just understeers a little bit more than you expect it to. Then forcing you to go deep. But wonderful cameras on board with Patrick Travers. Really gets an idea of the challenges of Suzuka when we go on board with them. I do think that Travers is taking a little bit too deep of a line there through Degner too. Van der Kran, Mr. Patience himself. We have seen this many times from Van der Kran. He's not trying to force any moves. Not the best driver in wheel-to-wheel battling, but he's very calculated. He doesn't go for anything if there isn't a true gap. He's not forcing it up anywhere, and he's not trying to play all the mind games either. Straight up driver, as opposed to, I think that Shelikans have gone around in with the 80 car as well in the hairpin, but they are back moving again. But look at this, Travers have a good distance here. If any of the cars had makes a mistake, then he can come with a lot of overspeed. But not quite this time. He does look strong on the brakes, does Patrick Travers. I think that was Shelikans and Ottelman who was involved in something in the Casio triangle just before. as they have both dropped quite a few positions and are now down to 23rd and 24th overall in this race. Vivard into the pits. Could have been issues or a planned pit stop that would be slightly early. Vivard have the wheelbase issues, hardware troubles for Shuk. That will probably put an end to his races this evening. He'll be gutted about that, as he's one of the drivers that will usually stick through basically anything out there and try to get it to the end. So that's one more driver out of it. Once again there with Helmut with the much wider line through the hairpin, allowing for Menemaniac to go into the slipstream, really getting a run. Now it's all about being brave, under braking, staying as close as possible, trying to get the launch out of Spoon for the Kran as well, showing himself on the inside as the rain hits for the first time just before the halfway point. I think Vargas only fuel for halfway to go for half fuel and fresh tires as he came into the pits just as the rain hit, and that would have been about halfway on the marker. Ooh, getting dicey out there already. But Vargas definitely taking the wets early on. Maybe a lap or two too early for that to really benefit him. But let's see where he is in comparison to the other drivers. Van der Kran diving into the early pit stop as well. So the Van der Kran battle for 11th, and then the Vargas further up. And here we have the overtake. This is actually, I think, Vargas on Dimitri de Knoyd. One lap before the rain hits. Let's see on the outside. After the Casio triangle, de Knoyd really forced to go narrow there. And then it's a drag race between the two of them. Usually the outside line are the preferred line into turn 1 if you're equal coming there, because you can break it a little bit later as the inside line that will end up flushing into the outside. So to give room, then they will have to break a little bit earlier. So good overtake there from Vargas, who did get himself up into to third, but then he dove into the pits really quick there as the rain hit. Track is getting greasy. The drivers who dived in early, they are running the risk of overheating the tires, and look at that, we'll even have a dry spell at the end of the race as well. But likely they will go onto the wets and then they'll stay on those tires till the end. But Vargas and Van der Kran, that will be interesting to see where they are when this pit stop round have played itself out. A lot of drivers have come into the pits, as we just saw a car teleporting there, so they might have hit the barrier coming into it. Mitchell's into the pits from currently in 4th. So this will be the first indication of whether Vargas hit it right or wrong with the early stop. Garcia as well. Von Liebenstein also. Maybe the drivers have been told that it is ready for wet tires. Vargas just so far behind. I do think that that Mitchell will come out ahead of Vargas, but it is hard to judge really, as we don't know how long Mitchell have been stationary yet in the pits. Helmut and Menemaniac as well into the pit, so the Van der Kran battle will also get a decisive moment on. Mitchell is moving as Vargas comes down the start-finish straight. Mitchell on the throttle. This could be close. Nah, not quite. I do think that. No, look at that, side by side into the first corner and heat into the tires of Vargas already. But do remember, he was ahead of Mitchell before the pits as well. I do think that Mitchell hit just the right lap on that one to get out at the right time. You can't trust the timing boards exactly at the minute. They do seem a little bit off, as Van Leeuwenstein supposedly is in 7th, but that doesn't look quite right, as the Vargas here in 8th. Goes around, and Chapel are the next car up the road who's still on the dry tires. Van der Gran actually losing very big on that pit stop behind Parties as well. And yeah, that's that was a big loss from Van der Gran, at least 7 seconds of loss. Now all the leaders comes in as well. Definitely time to put on some wet tires. So we'll get all of the decising moments. Stop go 30 for Archer there. That's speeding in the pit lane. And speeding by a lot. And Treffers will be the next man to make the call whether or not to pit. He does come in, I think. Yeah, he does. I wouldn't recommend staying out in these conditions either. Chapel just ahead of Vargas. We'll probably see diving in there. Yes, he does. Let's see, Vargas coming down the start-finish straight. Mitchell actually dropping quite far behind. Fredriksson still, still leading as they came out of the pits, and Vargas back behind De Knoit. But Peters, where's he in all of this? The number 20 car? No, he's not leading. It's just the timing boards that haven't updated yet, as they still need to cross the first sector. But yeah, but it does look like that Peters have gained ground on Fredriksson. We do know that Lambo is famous for struggling in the rain. And the rain will only get more and more intense as time progresses. It will clear out probably near the end of the race, but with the rain intensifying, I don't think we'll see any dry racing by the end of this race. Yeah, Fredriksson losing out a lot on that, and De Knoit on the attack on Jordy Peters, trying to take back P2. He have the hot tires, and that makes a huge difference here in the rain. But how much pressure have the drivers put into those tires are the question now. Because have you put it in for the early phases of the rain, the damp conditions as it were, now wet, or have they put it in for what seems to be very, very wet as it will be in about 10 minutes time? Knoit with the better line, Peters running a little bit too wide there. De Knoit on the inside. This is a drag race into 130R. De Knoit, I think you will have to give this one up. I think it'd be too risky. He does fall in behind. But De Knoit have tried this on wet tires before. Peters haven't. As Peters goes way too wide, he will have to give up that position, definitely. As Peters comes back at De Knoit into P2. He's in prime position to try and chase down Fredriksson. Who I do believe had about the just over 4 seconds before the pits. 4.5, maybe even 5, but definitely come down 3.8 last time around on a timing board. There was a little bit of battling this time, so it might have increased to just about 4, which it have. So yeah, that's interesting. Garcia also winning on. Oh, that's Peters going wide again. Now it's Vargas on the inside through turns 1 and 2. Vargas goes through Peters, struggling in the rain. He might need to increase that traction control a bit and change the brake bias. That Porsche looks twitchy. Probably didn't consider wet weather racing in the setups there for Jordy Peters, who have dropped down to 4th. That's how quickly it turns from 2nd to 4th in just a few corners. But Vargas with a bit of a gap up to Dimitri De Knoit, 1.8 seconds. BMW is known to be good in the rain, but let's see how that Bentley does. I would expect that to be reasonably strong, at least in these conditions. Van der Gran on the attack on Parties. Van der Gran who lost out a bit on that pit stop round. Parties jumped him And that Helmut we see further up the road, and Menomaniac really doing well there. Patrick Trevor's actually the big winner in that pit stop round. Up into 11th, he jumped all of the guys he was battling, and he was one of the last drivers to come into pit lane. So maybe there was something about waiting as long as possible there. Parties, and I think that was Helmut who made a little bit of a mistake there, dropping behind both Parties and Van der Kran. Big shuffle up in the field, it looks like, as the rain have hit. Wipers going, rain, lights are flashing, everything is a bit more challenging than it was just before the pit stop round. Van der Kran with a good run on Parties. Can he make it happen? Oh, that's the is that the 83 or the 63 that have there's issues there out of 130? It is back going again, so maybe not too much. I think that was Archer. Now he's back into the pits. Archer have gone back there. Meanwhile, Oldman and Shillikins also close together on track. The battling for P21 still do really love that livery on Shillikin's car. With Oldman, one of the classics, right behind. Again, Oldman with the tighter line through, having to almost avoid Shillikins there on the exit. As Oldman could have had a much better run had he just been there half a tenth later. As they go running through Spoon. That Aston Martin looks very good in these conditions. A little bit of a wiggle there though. As Shillikin seems to have full control of that Porsche. Not as twitchy as we saw Jordy Peters' Porsche further up the field. They are definitely running different setups on those cars. Or at least it looks like it from how they're going about it. Oldman a little bit wide. Martin Coy under attack. No, he have attacked. It looks like he have overtaken Van der Linden, who is now right behind him in the yellow Porsche. Martin Coy making great progress in the rain. Lexus used to be way back when. I think we're back to the 1.7, 1.6 version of the game maybe, where the Lexus was so strong in the rain. That got bobbed out of the car, unfortunately, but it is still rather nice to drive in these conditions. A splendid piece of machinery. Coy there a little bit too wide. That could leave the door open for Van der Linden as he tries to drag his way up behind. As Coy tries to break the slipstream, but not super successful. Through 130 we go. In these conditions, it's really the setup that determines how fast you can go through that corner, and that's where we can see the big overtakes into that. Peters into the pits. What is he doing? What is Peters doing? Did he forget to put on the wets or something? Maybe he forgot to fuel. Nevertheless, Jordy Peters have come into the pits for unknown reasons. Definitely not the day of Jordy Peters. Big disappointment from him. Dropping way down the field. Meanwhile, on the outside goes Van der Linden, not going through there, but a strong attempt. It is in these conditions where alternate lines, they can really work out for you if you try to be fancy on the moves. Through the S's we go. Oh, so close there from Van der Linden, really pushing up to the back of Coy. What will he do when he comes for you? Through the Deckness, just taking it nice and easy. Meanwhile, battling also. That's I think is that Mitchell and Mogul in a big battle. Mitchell really not doing well in the rain. That Ferrari. Mogul making the move into the hairpin, going through. Garcia will be next man up to overtake Mitchell. Meanwhile, this time Van der Linden out of the hairpin, goes through, it looks like outside through the entry into Spoon. But in these conditions, this really does become a corner, so they make contact. That's the that Koi got into the wall there. Oh, very unfortunate. Didn't see the whole of that situation, but in these wet conditions, going through that corner that's leading into Spoon, it's no longer flat out if you don't make it completely right. In a lot of the cars, if you get it just a little bit wrong, then you do have to lift, especially in those side-by-side situations. That might have caught the two drivers off guard. Meanwhile, Mitchell really falling down as he gets under pressure from Garcia, who have gone through. Next man to challenge Mitchell would be von Liebenstein. I wonder if Mitchell did full bank on a dry setup. That Ferrari seems to be struggling. Peters dropped all the way down to 18th after that pit stop. But let's see how well he can recover. This time Garcia, no sorry, Liebenstein. Oh, getting dicey there through turns 1 and 2. With Mogul just ahead of him. I wonder if Mogul have made a mistake as well as Garcia have passed him. This is really just a big bag of bingo numbers that's getting shuffled at the minute. Meanwhile, Fredriksson seems to have lifted the curse of the Lambo in these conditions as he's doing well. Meanwhile, Schillikens have been off on the entrance into Spoon. And Garcia up into 5th position. Oh, sorry, that's a Mogul we are following. Garcia in 4th, of course. But a Mogul into 5th in the Lexus. Garcia running wide. Maybe the prophecy will come true and Mogul will take the 4th and put Garcia down into 5th. Not quite, but now it's time for the exit. But Garcia does plant it nicely there, parks it on the apex, not giving Mogul a chance to go through. Very intelligent driving from Garcia. And look at that, how close Mogul was to get caught out by the grass there. The understeer in the rain, when you get that throttle, the front end just skips over sometimes, and that's when it gets super difficult behind the wheel. The front end wants to skip, the rear end wants to slide. It's all about that car control now. These three close together. I wonder if anyone will ever get a break here. Mogul with a lot more speed than Garcia shows himself he's not going for this on the inside through 130R. They do go through without contact, but a little bit of a rough move, but they still side by side into the Casio triangle. It's still all good racing though. Oh, still so close, but all three of them, maybe von Liebenstein will get the best of the both of them. Goes for it. At least passing Garcia. Mogul really making moves. You could only put him in comparison to Verstappen in his glory days. First the outside move through 130, and now he sets it up on the inside to get the move done in the Casio triangle. What a performance! What an offensive performance from Mogul in this one so far. Also the wildcard driver up into 4th. Meanwhile, I think that's Mitchell's getting overtaken now by Van der Linden as well through the S's of all places. Mitchell really struggling with that 488 here in these conditions. How far will he end up dropping? I wonder if Mitchell even took the wet tires, and that could be the explanation why he's struggling so much. Just waiting for the rain to clear out, maybe. But unlikely it will happen. Vargas, hey. I think we saw that on the stream, Mr. Hill. A long time ago, but maybe not. No, please don't man the cameras, fantasy friend. Speaking of fantasy friends and stuff like that, no one here is crazy. It is all the stuff that's happening in our heads. Van der Kran seems to have been maybe a little bit off at some point as he have lost ground to parties, but catching right back up as he goes way too deep into the hairpin there. As he will have to try and regain his composure and catch back up to parties. At this point, they were very close early, and it did look like that Van der Kran, he did have the pace over Parties, but he couldn't go through. Meanwhile, a bad day becomes worse for Regan Mitchell. This could potentially end up being his drop result if this continues to happen, as he drops behind Martin Coy. Up into 8th now for Coy. The two wildcard Lexuses are doing very well this evening. Into the triangle for Van der Kran, still looking at the back of Peters, or Parties, sorry, of Parties' McLaren. Have dropped behind quite some distance now, have Van der Kran. And the Parties have a little bit of breathing room at this point. Chapel also with Iron Van der Linden, it looks like Lambo and BMW just a few places behind these guys. Also in a sort of a close race. As we go directly to them here, Chapel in the Lamborghini and Iron Van der Linden. Oh, Chapel there. Maybe the curse of the Lambo have only been cleared by Fredriksson. And Iron Van der Linden in the BMW, the number 13 car, or sorry, 14 car. I can't even do numbers anymore for some reason. One of the long-time drivers of the community as well, Iron Van der Linden, the THRC team. One of the cars that we always have to see out on track. Semi-iconic livery at this point. A famous backmarker team also. Some of the guys that we do love to have racing with us, as they really do provide quite good racing and have done for many, many seasons. At this point, as Peters, they also goes from bad to worse. Not just that extra pit stop and dropping positions, now a drive-through penalty to put on top of that as well. So Peters will drop back down, maybe only to around the area of Michamelis and Blichmar. I don't think he will go behind Parker, but this would potentially also be the drop round for Jordy Peters if he manages to race all the rounds. Chapel have caught back up to Iron Van der Linden. Chapel, do you remember he does have that big damage on the front end of that car? The black might hide it just a little bit, but still noticeable on the stream. With 16 minutes to go. Something that we haven't spoken that much about in this race is the Silver Championship, that Patrick Travers is actually leading the silver class. Iron Van Linden second, and Helmut, who looked so strong in the dry and qualifying, have dropped to third in that class. On board Van Linden, looking back at Chapel. This is where he sort of had the issues before Chapel, but let's see this time around. Van Linden not exactly making that apex before, but does recover it and get back on the line. From the nose of Chapel. Oh, I actually think that Peters goes a full lap down to Fredriksson there. The full lap down to the drivers he was battling before. Probably not one of his proudest moments. Oh, they're breaking into the hairpin! That got too close for comfort there. Chapel and Iron Van der Linden. Looks like Van der Linden just braked too early, and then when he saw Chapel was so much late on the brakes, almost taking evasive action to get out of the way of Chapel, but he still managed to hook that apex. Meanwhile, Van der Kran and Parties still locked in this battle. for 12th position. Woohoo! Almost contact there. A little bit of a slide at least from Garcia. Van der Linden have Patrick Van der Linden have to differentiate between the Van der Lindens. But Patrick Van der Linden really seems to have found pace here in the wet. Made a lot of positions and is challenging Wolf Garcia at this point for 6th position. This could be a really strong Garcia losing the car there, regaining control like a true racing guard almost in these conditions. Although a true guard probably wouldn't have lost it, but nevertheless, wonderful car control to save that. But a strong driving there from Van der Linden as well to keep the foot planted and not freaking out, seeing a car going sideways in front of him as he have moved himself up into 6th. He could potentially actually catch up to both Van Liebenstein ahead and Mogul. They are not that far up the road, but he will have to take full advantage of the last bits of the rain. Odelman and Shelikan seems to be locked together as well. Every time we go to these drivers, they seem to be close together. And Odelman still behind Shelikans. Two drivers for whom this could also potentially end up being a drop round or being their drop round. For those who don't understand what I'm talking about when I'm saying drop round all the time, 5 rounds of this championship, your worst result of the season gets scrapped from the points. So you only score points from your 4 best finishes out of the 4 out of the 5 races this season. Which does allow for drivers to have one bad performance, so if they get involved in an incident, or if they just have real life matters to attend to on race evenings. Although, what could be more important than a race here on SSRI, right? Whoa, Odelman! Saving the car again. These drivers, they are definitely on their toes right now, driving with their toes almost. Have to be so precise on the inputs, both on the pedals and the steering wheel. As from this point on, I do think we'll see the conditions gradually improve to the end of the race. Though only 13 minutes to go, not that many laps. Odelman there getting it tricked onto the inside and then trying to switch it back and then losing complete position there. I think Peters have retired from this one as he's back in the pits with a drive-through. Could have been speeding, of course, as well, then trying to go on, but I think Peters is out of this one. The man with the fastest lap. Track have gone down to damp conditions at this point. Further up the field, Parties and Van der Kran still locked in this wonderful battle between the two of them. They're catching back up to Menamoniak as well in the 51 McLaren ahead of these two drivers. They can see him inch closer and closer, but this is one of the difficult times of a race. Have to gauge how much grip do you have each lap. The grip does improve though every time, so if you just do what you did last lap, then you would be safe. But if the driver ahead of you manages to figure out the drying braking lines quicker than you, then you are a little bit in trouble. Out of spoon we go. Van der Kran seeking the wet patches of the track. He might have set the tires up for very, very wet conditions. Parties as well seeked into the wet areas of the track. And this is the time I don't think it will be worth it coming in for dries, even if the track went to a dry state at this point. The time loss in the pits probably would be too large, and you just have to suffer on the wets throughout the race. Yeah, both drivers seeking that drying line. Van der Kran might just be trying to take the slipstream, but we did see him seeking the wet line before. And he seeked it before Parties, so there could be something with the tires. the drivers might know that they'll have to protect them to the end, so no point in overdoing them too early. He with the highest pressures early on could be the one in troubles now, as you want to have put the lowest possible into the tires from this point on to the end. The lower pressure would help with the total pressure, as once the tires get hotter and hotter, the pressure builds up inside the tires and they might become like balloons to drive on if they're not careful with managing those rising pressures. This time, Parties with a bad exit of the hairpin. At this bad midway part, the exit did look reasonably fine. Manamoniak actually getting closer and closer up in front of them as well. Meanwhile, Van der Linden, Patrick Van der Linden and Van Diepenstein have caught up to Mogul also in the battle for fourth. But this time Van der Kran, he could... well, he will have to start thinking about where to make the move. 8 minutes of racing, 9 minutes, that's 5 laps roughly that we have left in this race when they cross the line. Could be 6 depending on where Tish Fredriksen is on track. Into the Casio. As quick as possible into the wet patches of the track for both Parties and Van der Kran. But Menomaniac, that will be the thing. When he gets involved in this, could that be a potential for a three-way battle for 11th position? Meanwhile, Patrick Van der Linden all over the back of Samuel van Liebenstein in the battle for 5th. Mogul, he'll be lapping a little bit within his car at this point because they'll just be losing time behind him as they were catching up to him before. Seems like that Mogul have gained a little bit of a gap as their battling behind have intensified. The rain have stopped falling at this point. And with 7 minutes on dry line could be forming at some point this time. Van der Kran with the potential dangerous place to go side by side into the hairpin. He will have to go the long way around though. He will have the better exit if he can get the power down. Didn't look like he got that much out of that, but side by side on the run into Spoon. Is it dry enough to go full throttle, or will we have another contact here? Just squeezing first. It looked like full throttle from up here at least. Martin van der Kran with the move. Finally gets it done after almost half an hour looking at the back of Parties. Parties did a wonderful job of defending that through the rain period. But now will Menomaniac be challenged by the two behind? It's not everywhere where we see the spray coming up from behind the cars. Parties running wide in 130R. First time that he will have to deal with the slipstream. Parties definitely dropped behind. Meanwhile, Patrick Travers have caught up to the back of Regan Mitchell. But Mitchell, he will likely get quicker and quicker as the track dries up from this point on. But yeah, he's still down there with Patrick Travers, who have snuck himself into the top 10. Can he do it? Though it will be the big question. Or does Regan Mitchell find that pace he had earlier in the race in the dry conditions? Regain a little bit of momentum with the Ferrari? 3 laps to go for the race leader as he crosses the line. Before the time runs up, they're trying to seek the wet patches down the back straight, but there are no real wet patches yet. And will they have to start to disappear? The dry line have definitely formed, and then some mildly moist areas just outside of the racing line. You can really see Mogul really trying to cool down the tires. Same for Patrick van der Linden. Van Liebenstein up to stay on the racing line. He might not be as bothered as the 2 other drivers. Meanwhile, this time, Martin van der Kraan on Minomaniac. He have a great finish to the race. It does look like van der Kraan chooses to back out of the move into 130R. Smart driving from van der Kraan. He knows if he does have the pace, then there will be an opportunity that will likely present itself at some point. Though just the 3 laps when they cross the line. So that could potentially be an issue of running out of time. Late yellows near the hairpin. I think that's Ottman maybe. Does look like 80 on the track map. Van der Linden this time super close to the move. It does make it through. Van Liebenstein getting a little bit wide there, getting the drive through on top of everything there. Does Van der Linden. Going a little bit too wide and losing out the position. And the track limits are just so unforgiving in these wet conditions. Late drive through for Samuel van Liebenstein. He will drop a few positions, likely down to around Patrick Treffers. I do think probably still in the top 10 when he comes back on track. He's definitely not dropping down to Van der Kraan, but he will have it. Meanwhile, Van der Kraan actually got through Minomaniac while I was looking at that drive-through and trying to figure out where he would go, but Van der Kraan got the move done and have moved himself up into what would be 11th place. Big gap up though. Meanwhile, Mick Schillikens, he have gone a lap down to a few cars. That's Misha Melis ahead of him, battling for position. Misha will have to look a bit in the rearview mirrors. Schillikens are known to be a quick driver, and he is quite a bit out of position of where we would usually expect to see Mick Schillikens. But of course, Misha, I don't think that Misha will be giving anything by the doors here. As we can see Misha following Schillikens all the way out there, not wanting to give up this position. They will have this lap and one more, so Misha just have to defend for roughly 3 minutes of racing from a faster Schillikens behind. But what Schillikens can do by the end of this will be the big question. Will Schillikens find the overspeed to go through? Track have gone down to greasy, by the way. Find the overspeed somewhere and get that white and pink Porsche through. They do actually seem to have reasonable pace in these 2 backmarker cars. That's actually Blitzmer ahead of them, who's also in this battle, freeway battle for 18th late on in the day. Oh, that's a Blitzmer that went way wide there. Meanwhile, Tess Fredrickson starts the final lap. No, that was Misha Melis. Schillikens moves his ass up ahead of Misha Melis. It was Melis who was wide there. Then it's Blitzmer ahead of Schillikens. Can Schillikens do it? 2 seconds, but only 1 lap to do it. Fredrickson, who seems to not have put a foot wrong in this race, got that lead off a good start. Then just every time that they started battling behind, he got a few tenths, and then a few more tenths, and then a few more tenths, and then by the end of it, he went all the way up The 873, that's that chapel that have gone around again in the Dignas. Definitely not lifting the Lambo curse for him, but Tej Fredriksson have lifted it for the team that seemed to be struck by unfortunate when we went endurance racing here last time out. Tell you what, Chelikins might get the opportunity for the dive into the Casio triangle, or maybe even into Spoon as he's right up the rear of Blitzmer. Still that 1 second, the gap might be a little bit too big. He will have to rely on a mistake from Blitzmer in this situation, I think. Oh, Blitzmer's tires. Whoa, a little bit of slide there from Chelikins, but a little bit of tire issues for Blitzmer could also help Chelikins in this situation. Meanwhile, Fredriksson only the Casio triangle to go, and then he can basically coast it to the end. Meanwhile, Koi in issues, it looks like. Koi have been around late as the checkered flag falls to Tej Fredriksson, who wins the race. Dimitri de Knoit behind to take P2. Just 3 seconds between them there by the end. I wonder if Fredriksson took it slightly easier by the end, just saving it a little bit. Nick Vargas seems to be coming in, securing P3 as he comes across the line. Chelikins didn't get Blitzmer at the end there, by the way. Wildcard driver Mogul in 4th. Goes across the line. Patrick van der Linden, super strong wet performance there from the 81 Porsche driver. Takes 5th. Wolf Garcia claims 6th to be the second best of the Porsches. Regan Mitchell actually almost catching back up to Wolf Garcia there by the end. I wonder if Garcia and Koi might have had a little bit of a touch or something. Koi coming in to claim 8th. Patrick Treffers wins the silver class this evening, and it is secured that it will be I think Helmut in Iron van der Linden in 2nd in class, as there are 1.7 seconds between them. Only the 2 of them remain in silver. Van der Kran snatches 11th. Von Lebenstein recovers all the way up to 10th position. Actually strong recovering there from Von Lebenstein. Parties good result as well in 12th. Matt Pryor will be 14th, and then it's just the 2 silvers for second place. They're actually super close for 14th and P2 and silver overall. As they'll come into frame there behind. But Reinder Helmut does take P2 in class, and Iron van der Linden sneaks in P3. What a race we had this evening. I'm really looking forward to the next one, because this surely was wonderful. But let's see if anyone joins us in the interview room this evening. Otherwise, we can look forward to Kota in 2 weeks' time. But speaking of, we have been joined by Tej Fredriksson. Congratulations on the strong win this evening.
Thank you, Oliver.
Seems to be done in the start, basically. You got a better start than de Knoit next to you, and then you sort of just took advantage of the other drivers battling behind you. It seemed like you weren't that much quicker than the drivers directly behind, but every time they got involved in just a little bit of a scram, then you just pulled away and pulled away and pulled away.
Yeah, exactly as you said. I was just hoping for them to stay behind me there and just fight it out and make me just run away in the distance, you know. That's, I was not really much faster than them. I just hoped they would just, as you said, keep battling and let me just run away.
Yeah, you already got that gap of about 0.8 seconds on lap 1, and from there on it just seemed like you were just cruising.
Yeah, it was quite like scary wet, and then it's going over to dry with wet tires. So that was kind of sketchy. So I was just scared of the tires popping. So I was just be careful with the tires as much as I could, and got a little bit terrified when P2, I can't remember his name, but the Bentley, he got closer and closer, but I thought it was just 2 laps left, so it was no, I couldn't take many more risks.
I thought you were just playing it safe there by the end
No.
as the gap came down, but strong call as well with the time changing the tires. It did seem like you were with the group that came in on what seemed to be the optimum time for the tire change. Those who boxed early seem to lose out quite a bit on that.
Yeah, I just watched condition just changing to grease, and then it got damp, and then was like, okay, now I'm pitting. So I think it was probably okay time to go pit. So, and I moved a little bit in the pits, so I lost 5 seconds there, maybe 3 or 4. But I got right in front of Peters, but unfortunately he was on dries, I heard. So, yeah, was really lucky with that.
Not Peter's race at all, coming in for that second time and then getting the drive-through later on, I think even twice, and retiring from the race. So that might be his scrap round.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, but we have seen, historically speaking, the Lamborghini not being so strong in the rain, especially here to Suzuka. I do remember an endurance race here about a year ago where the Lambo team that did well, they seemed to struggle a lot in the rain. Didn't seem to be an issue for you this time.
I don't know. It was just wet, not just normal wet. So it was not heavy rain. I think heavy rain I would struggle a lot with, but these conditions I think was suitable for Lambo, in my opinion.
Most definitely. But now with 2 strong results early in the season, a first and a third, you must be looking a little bit on those that possibility of becoming a champion this season.
Hopefully, but I know there's good contenders with me, with the others, Peters and my name, sorry, I'm forgetting names, but yeah. Well, I'm gonna do my best, and let's see where it goes.
Yeah, just one final thing before we let you go to enjoy your great win, and obviously big celebrations this evening. Obviously, of course, when you take a big win, but Donington next time out, very, very different track. It is tight and narrow, just like Suzuka, and have a little bit of elevation, but way different in the way to drive it.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, sorry.
I don't know, just keep going.
I mean, Donington is a track I really love, so I am all hyped if it's great conditions there. It not rain. Hopefully. I hope it's gonna be a dry. It's gonna be one of my strongest track, I think.
It's England in the fall, of course. It's going to rain.
Yeah, of course, especially when it's one of my favorite tracks.
It's a lovely track, but as no one else joins us, any final words just before we round off?
No, just thank you guys for streaming the races, and it's really enjoyable to watch them back. And yeah, thank you for organizing this season as well for me.
And thank you, and all of the other drivers for driving, because without you, then we wouldn't be sitting here, of course. But I have been.
Okay, that's fine.
I will. By the way, not be a stream for Donington due to yeah, well, that just won't be a stream there due to personal stuff.
It's gonna be like that sometimes.
From the group, yeah. Nevertheless, I have been Oliver Anderson, Mr. One of Oliver, and behind the cameras, as always, have been Grandpa Chris Hill taking us through this wonderful evening of racing here at the virtual Suzuka. Until next time, we'll see you then.